If you're new to this channel and feel excited to start preparing for school or college, welcome. I've been making weekly videos on productivity, organization, and study techniques for the past 5 years, so you have a massive library of videos to look forward to after finishing this one. Becoming a better student can't be achieved by resorting to hacks and chewing gum while taking a test or highlighting your entire textbook. Information retention is a bit more complicated than that. There are no shortcuts towards the effective memorization of a subject. Becoming a better student requires hard work, and being a good student isn't about having a top grade in a test and then forgetting about everything you've written the following morning. Being a good student means understanding that learning is a careful and slow process that takes a lot of work and will help you develop as a person. So now that we've got that out of the way, here are 7 habits of highly successful students. In most cases, studying is what will get you a job, so you better start taking your academic life with the same level of seriousness. And seriousness doesn't mean sacrificing your social life or 8 hours of sleep. It means being your own boss and creating routines that you need to follow every day on the clock. It's helpful to schedule everything, setting a specific amount of hours per day to dedicate your attention to studying, keeping track of your studying goals, and we'll talk more about that later, and planning study and review sessions in advance, just like you would with a regular job. Successful students don't attempt to memorize everything the night before. If you're looking for long-term information retention, and you should because that's what stays with you for the rest of your life, then memorizing everything the night before an exam will be useless. But to explain this better, we have to find out why we actually forget things. While studying, you'll be tapping into your semantic memory. Semantic memory refers to a portion of long-term memory that processes ideas and concepts not drawn from personal experience. In contrast, episodic memory is specific to the individual and is basically a recollection of biographical experiences and events. Semantic memory is harder to build because it isn't based on something you've experienced. Information related to semantic memory tends to start by entering the short-term memory, which basically is what happens when you're in class listening to what your professor is saying. To transfer information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory, you need to rehearse information through a rehearsal loop or maintenance rehearsal. If this doesn't happen, the data is lost from your short-term memory and will never go to your long-term memory. So, how can you rehearse information and avoid forgetting? There are many theories about what makes us forget long-term information, but here I'll summarize the 2 most important factors. One thing that makes us forget things is interference. This occurs when your memory is disrupted by learning something new. Your memory becomes clouded because it combines new information with past information. To avoid interference, make sure that your ideas are stated clearly in your notes and that you take special care in distinguishing similar concepts rather than just memorizing their definition. Another thing that makes us forget is the lack of consolidation. When you take in new information, you need a certain amount of time for that information to be adequately recorded. That's called the consolidation process. This is what makes active learning so important. In active learning, you interact with the learning process instead of just taking in the information. This may involve participating in debates, doing independent research on the subject, or completing a small project on the topic. Although it takes longer, it improves the chance that whatever you're learning will be consolidated and stored correctly in your long-term memory instead of the short one. Last week, I stated that it's crucial to stay independent and be proactive. The best students have to follow the rules, but they don't let the rules be the boundaries of how hard they work or how much they learn. Having a satisfactory grade doesn't necessarily mean that you actually learned the subject well. Maybe you got lucky, perhaps you crammed the right chapter the night before, And maybe you now feel like, deep inside, you don't know that much about the subject you just got a high grade on. Successful students are aware that information is interconnected across different areas of knowledge. If you're lacking in a specific subject, maybe that will follow you into a different course and result in a poor grade in the future. Or perhaps it will follow you into your job. That's why it's so relevant to set goals for yourself and focus less on the grade. Commit to learn well and to master the topics of your lectures. Remember the whole theory about short and long-term memory? This is also the reason why it's so essential to build a reliable organization system. Most tasks that we're given enter our short-term memory. The displacement theory says that our short-term memory has a limited capacity, suggested to hold only a few items. When your short-term memory is full, new information displaces or pushes out old information and takes its place. And then you forget. If you have, say, 8 things to do and then you're assigned another item, there's a high probability you will forget one of the other 8 items. That's why you should just write those 8 items down in a to-do list. That way, even if you get more assignments and tasks on your list, you'll be sure none of it gets displaced. However, there are tons of different organization methods out there. You can go digital, as I did, or you can opt for a more traditional rule and get a paper planner, a bullet journal, or a simple to-do list. Either way, the best students try to find something that really works for them and make a routine out of planning their studying and learning activities and making sure that they prioritize tasks correctly. You can find playlists for both digital and analog planning systems in the description box below. Successful students aren't afraid of speaking up or emailing their professors or teaching assistants anytime they have a question. The learning process is usually never a straight line, and to reinforce your knowledge and go through the consolidation process we've just talked, it's important to step back, ask the right questions, and stop being afraid of showing that we actually know very little about what we are learning, and that our knowledge of the topics we're learning in college barely scratches the surface of the full comprehension of the subject. Successful students have mastered the holy trinity of academic time management. They prepare before class, they are present in class, and they review after class. Making sure you do all these 3 things will ensure maximum retention of information. It's basically a result of what we've discussed before. It makes sure you consolidate information while also being present and asking questions. Class prep basically means you should be reviewing any written material that has been provided to you beforehand, drafting preliminary questions on that material, and making a draft or an outline of the topics or a few relevant notes so you have a guide when you actually attend class. During class, you should take smart notes. Notes that are clear, short, and thorough. But more on that next week. And they prevent you from being too focused on writing the notes instead of paying attention to the lecture. You should take your first draft of preliminary questions and ask them during discussion or after the lecture to get rid of those earlier doubts. And finally, you should actually pay attention and think about what's being discussed. This may sound like a no-brainer, but especially in college, we are so focused on recording information we actually forget we should be actively listening to what's being said. After class, you should schedule a review session to go through your notes and your questions and spend some time researching some of the key concepts you've learned. And that takes us to our last habit. Successful students don't take information for granted. There's hardly any area of studies where everything is a fact, and there are no opposing theories or compelling justifications regarding the state of the art. If you have time, remember to challenge your facts. Search for opinions of people who think otherwise, even if it's purely from an academic perspective. This will help the whole consolidation process we've discussed earlier and will allow you to delve deeper into the subject you're being taught. Next week, we'll be discussing how to take smart notes and create study guides out of them. This will act as the major reference point for your memorization exercises and will accompany you throughout the end of the semester. I want to thank Raycon for partnering with me in making this video. If you're following the habits we mentioned today and spend a lot of time studying, you should definitely find the perfect soundtrack to accompany you in your study sessions. Either a custom playlist, ambient sounds, or some classical tracks. Having a pair of small earbuds like the Everyday 25 earbuds that can fit in your pocket is the way to stay inspired to work during the day. You can use them at home, at the library, while working out, or while you're commuting. They are discreet, without any wires or stems, and have a compact design that gives you an excellent noise-isolating fit. I was actually very surprised by the level of comfort of these Raycons. I have a tiny ear and earbuds never fit me, only regular earphones. And I found that, besides fitting perfectly, these were really comfortable, and I didn't even remember they were there after a couple of minutes of use. I paired them with my iPhone and the Bluetooth connection was basically seamless. The battery life lasted around 6 hours of playtime, which in my case was basically an entire day of working on my laptop. Raycon earbuds start at about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds on the market, and they actually sound great. And if you want to get 15% off your earbuds, you can go to buyraycon.com/Mariana to get a discount on your order. I've also included a clickable link in the description box. I hope you enjoyed today's video and I'll see you next week. Bye guys!